Today we're here in our hotel in Beijing, and we actually have a extensive journey today. First, we're going to go to the famous Tiananmen Square, or Square of Heavenly Peace, and from there we're going to go to Gugong, or Former Palace. It's the Forbidden City from the Ming and Qing dynasties. And I'm going to break down why both places we're going to visit are important and they're connected. First of all, in 1919, there was a movement called the May 4th movement, which amassed in Tiananmen Square, and this movement was to protest both Japanese imperialism and what the Chinese perceived to be unfair gains of lands that the Japanese had got after World War I. So many of the students clogged the square and protested those things. Second, is that Mao declared the foundation of the People's Republic of China there in October 1st, 1949. Another is that in 1976, when both Mao and Zhou Enlai had died, lots of people also crowded the square because, sorry, someone came up here. But anyways, also lots of people clogged the square because the Chinese people were uncertain about who would lead China after two of the most powerful figures had passed away. And eventually China was kind of in a power struggle between a force known as the Gang of Four, which was led by Jiang Qing, which was Mao's wife. But eventually sole power basically was transferred to Deng Xiaoping. And the next thing is in 1989, what's called the June 5th incident, or the Tiananmen Square protests, is one of the most important events in Chinese history too, because many students, about 1 million in number, clogged the square and protests, first for better conditions in their dormitories and university lives, and second for democratic values. This, of course, was eventually squelched by the Chinese government, who considered it a threat. The second place we're going to go to is Gugong, or the Forbidden City, and it's an 8,000-room extensive palace for the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties. The emperors didn't leave. They had to live completely in the Forbidden City where they governed China. And of course, one of the most famous is the last emperor, known as Puyi, and the Qing dynasty ended in 1911, but since the early 1400s to 1911, it served as the place where the emperor lived. So actually the Republic allowed Puyi to stay until, I believe, a warlord took over in, I think, 1925, but I could be wrong about that. But that's the significance of what we're going to see today. And then we're going to go to actually the most famous restaurant in China. It's called Changju Di. It serves a traditional Beijing roast duck, and it's very expensive and it's very good. So, alright, I'm not in Tiananmen Square yet. I just thought that I would get back on video because I forgot to tell you two things that are important about it. One is the things that are in Tiananmen Square. One building there is called the Great Hall of the People. It's a large building, and you'll see it to the side, and that is what China uses as its parliament building. There's currently 2,979 representatives there, and it's used for their legislature. Also in Tiananmen Square, there'll be a monument that's very tall. I think it's about 30 meters tall, but don't quote me on it. And that is the monument to the people's heroes, is to signify those that lost their lives to liberate China in the 19th and 20th century, starting with the 1840s because of the Opium War. Another thing you'll see in Tiananmen Square is the Mausoleum of Mao Zedong, and we can't go in it because it's under renovation right now, which is pretty disappointing, but that is kind of in the center behind the monument of the people's heroes, and apparently if you go in there you can see Mao's preserved body within a crystal casket, which I kind of think it stinks that we can't see it, but I guess I understand why, because it's the first time they've renovated it since it was built after his death. And then the second thing I was going to say, other than the things that are in Tiananmen Square, Well, actually, let me mention the famous portrait of Mao Zedong that hangs on top of the Tiananmen Gate. It was actually vandalized just 2 weeks ago. Someone threw a flaming object up and it caught on fire, so they had to repair it, but I think they repaired it by now. But it's the most famous portrait of Mao, and you can see it all over internet and everything. But anyways, we're going to go through the Tiananmen Gate, or the Gate of Heavenly Peace. We'll get into a large open courtyard area, and then from there we'll go through another gate. It's called the Meridian Gate, and underneath the Meridian Gate, when passing through, that's the Forbidden City. So we're going to do all that today. And the second thing I was going to say again is that it's significant because actually the Yuan dynasty, which was controlled by the Mongol people, had a palace roughly at the same place as the Forbidden City, and that's where Marco Polo met with Kublai Khan. And it kind of makes it interesting just how much history it has. At that point, most of the Tiananmen Square was filled with office buildings for the Yuan dynasty and all those. So Tiananmen Square wasn't really a public gathering square until a lot later. So that's it, and I'll see you when we get